Hi, I'm Primo the Alien, a local musician, artist, producer, songwriter, and singer, and I'm here to give you a voice lesson. Okay, so before we get started, I'm going to lay all the cards on the table and be super blunt with you. The thing about singing is you're either born with it or you're not. It's a gift you're given from the gods of rock, and some people got it and some people don't, and that's okay. If you're a great singer, you can be even better. And if you're a bad singer, you can become a less bad singer with voice lessons. The voice is something you should always be training and working on if you're a professional musician, and it's something that you can improve on if you're just, singing around the house or singing in the shower. So the first thing we're going to start with is fundamentals, the fundamentals of singing. And the first thing and the most important, well, arguably one of the most important things is the posture, which I don't have great. I'm not doing great posture right now, but posture. So all of the support when you sing is coming from the diaphragm, coming from the abdominal muscles, the lungs. So you need to make sure that when you're singing, shoulders are back, chest is out, chin is up. This compresses. Just physiologically, look at the difference. This is the space you're creating when you create nice posture. So you're going to want to sit up straight. You're going to want to hold your abdominals in. You're going to want to pull the belly button into the spine and support your lungs and your breath and everything. So number one, posture. The second fundamental is your breath. Okay, this is arguably the other most important thing, and your posture and your breath go hand in hand. So the breath is where the voice comes from, right? That's the airflow. That's the sound you're making. It's all coming from the lungs. But the difference is we fill our lungs lower when we sing. So when you're going for a jog and it's here. You're sucking air in here into your upper ribs. But when you sing, you want to fill your diaphragm, which is kind of low in your belly. So a good exercise is to lay on your back and breathe and observe where you're filling the space. Is it here? Is it here? And try to focus your mind on filling your breath lower in your abdominal in lieu of here. Okay. So breath is super important, and building the ability to take big breaths and exhale big breaths is important. And that will lead us to our very first little warm up that you're going to do when you start singing. And everyone who sings, before you start singing, you need to warm up. You don't just cold turkey start yelling. That's how you hurt yourself. And take it from someone who's a belter. Okay. I am a big time screamer. I hit the notes. I don't hold back. But in order to do that without creating vocal nodes or stress on the voice, you have to warm up properly. So the first warm up that a lot of people do is breath. They'll count their breath. So you'll inhale, and while you inhale, you'll count. And while you exhale, you'll count. Now your inhale will be a mental count, and the exhale will be an audible count like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. And you'll do that until you're completely out of breath, until you've exhausted your lungs. Every time, your goal is going to be to get further along in that count, right? And this is how you can measure your progress too of your lung capacity and if you're getting stronger. So before you start singing, it's warming up the diaphragm, warming up the lungs, getting the breath flowing, getting oxygen to your body, which is really important when it comes to singing. Another warm up you can do to enhance your diaphragm, I call them pops. So you're going to take a breath in, fill your diaphragm, and then you'll go pa, 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 pa. Pa, pa, pa. And what you're doing is you're contracting in the diaphragm into the belly button, into the spine, and exhaling that breath. Pa, 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 pa. That builds the strength of the abdominals, and it builds the strength of your diaphragm and your breath. Another thing that you need to do is strengthen your abdominals. Actually, do some planks, and not aggressive stuff like crunches and sit-ups and things like that, but really stabilizing the stabilizing muscles of your body, because those are the things that really support you when you're singing. You cannot have a weak stomach and be a good singer. You just can't. There's a power and a strength that comes from there that you really need to exercise. So planks are good, forearm or here. And you can do, leg raises and things like that that are gentle, but that really build the stabilizing muscles. Sounds crazy, but yeah, you need to have abs under whatever you got. I mean, you can't really find mine, but they're under there and they're strong as hell. Another thing you're going to want to do to warm up is you're going to want to warm up your actual neck. That is something that a lot of singers overlook. And it's very important because this is a lot of what you're going to be doing when you really start hitting those notes. So you're going to want to do your neck turns and get really working to your neck, lengthening your neck, contracting your neck, spinning around. All the things you do before you exercise, because it is exercise. Singing is a very physical activity. It's not as passive as, say, sitting at a piano, which is great, and which, frankly, if you're singing, you should be learning to play the piano as well if you're serious about it. But it's a very physical activity, so you definitely want to warm up your neck, your back, and just get those muscles warm. These muscles are so important. I mean, think about what you're doing. All of this movement while you're pressing air out, this needs to be warm. So you want to do your neck things and get all that stuff loosey-goosey ready to go. And then this is when the real work comes. Before we talk about scales and those sort of warm-ups, I want to talk about some of the terms that you need to know if you become a professional singer, or just good knowledge to have. I'm a classically trained singer. Now, I did go to Hollywood on American Idol twice. So I sing contemporary music, and I sing pop music, and I write and produce pop music. But I was classically trained, and it has given me a wonderful foundation for all the singing that I do now. So some terms you're going to want to know. You're going to want to know about vibrato. Vibrato is one of the most important tools in your tool belt when it comes to singing, in terms of expression. How to express a different phrase is all going to come with the vibrato. And vibrato is a little movement you make here in your voice box that moves the note. So instead of saying flat like this, just flat, nothing. Vibrato is a slight movement. That little lulululu in the voice. That's how you bring, a delicate nature to some notes, or also sometimes when you're hitting a really big one. It's also a great tool for helping you find a note sometimes. Really when you're belting, it is tricky because sometimes you're here and then you got to be here. And it's kind of nice. Sometimes you can use vibrato to slide up a bit, find where you are, and hang on to it. So vibrato is a big one. Another one we're going to talk about is crescendo, decrescendo. And as I'm sure you can guess, crescendo is when you intensify the volume of your voice, and decrescendo is when you do the opposite. So an example of that would be and pulling it back. And that is a great way also to express. When you sing classical music, and especially at the competitive level, those will be annotated on your sheet music to tell you when in the song you're supposed to do that, because the people who did write those, older, like in Italian classical songs, they had a very specific way that they wanted you to sing it. And that's all usually marked on your sheet music. And that is how they judge you and score you. So all those techniques can be applied to singing for popular music, which is what I primarily do now. You can sing row, row, row your boat. Row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. Okay, fine. Hit the notes, whatever. But you can sing it. Row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. And without crescendo, decrescendo, without vibrato, you can't have a lot of the nuance that you can have in a vocal performance. And at the end of the day, you can be as technical as humanly possible. But without that performance, it doesn't move people. Next, I want to talk a little bit about where to put the air in your mouth. So some singers are very in here. They're putting it here. Some singers are very breathy, they're putting it here. There's a happy medium you can reach because you're never going to hit a real note doing you ain't going to you ain't going to Hollywood on American Idol singing like that, okay? And you're not going to Hollywood on American Idol singing like either, even though some riffraff gets through sometimes. But that's very important, is where you place the air. So you're going to want to find a happy medium between here and live around in here. Now, sometimes when you start to hit higher notes, you'll hear singers kind of pull into here to give a little relief from the throat. But ideally, you want a nice, full, round sound. You want an openness in your throat, no tension here. You can kind of feel, when you can tense up your throat. You want a relaxed throat, a relaxed palate, and you want to have free movement here in the nose area. You don't want to be too clogged up. So just a very simple ha. That's a nice middle ground. Ha. And you can hear where I'm pulling here. Ha. Or where I'm pulling here. Ha. That's more in the throat, more in the wispy area, if you will. So you definitely want to find that place in your mouth where you're in between these two places. Okay, so now we're going to talk a little bit about chest voice and head voice, belting and falsetto. That is, really like the heart of what singing is realizing where your lowest note is, where your highest note is, and being able to traverse that space with ease, effortlessly. There's a space between where your voice naturally lives, your chest voice, and then your head voice. There's a breaking point for every singer kind of in between there. And singing in that space is called singing in the mix, singing in between those two places and gliding between them easily. Now, you can take the same note and sing it falsetto or chest a lot of times, depending on the emotion you're trying to evoke. If you're trying to be more delicate, you'll go with a falsetto, which is your head voice, which is ah. Granted, in pop music, you wouldn't sing it like that. It'd be more of a ah, gentler and less vibrato and less opera-y. But, those notes up here can also sometimes be sung with your chest voice in a belty style. The difference is finding kind of like an effortless way to transition from a full, ha to something even higher. Okay. I guess I'm going to make myself do it now, like up here. So, the first step of that is knowing your range, and you'll figure that out by doing scales. So I'm going to give you an example of some scales right now and take you through some of the easy ones. And then we'll talk a little bit more about belting, singing in the mix, singing in falsetto, and singing even lower notes like that. So I'm not going to spend a really long time on scales because while it's something you need to learn, it's not something I can teach you in 30 minutes. And I can just tell you what they are. Scales are just a repetition of notes along the notes of a scale in a certain key. And vocal scales, what you would do is you sing them and then you go up and you sing them in a higher register. You just keep going up and up and up until you max out your range. And you should do this every day, up and down a scale, a simple, the most simple scale, probably the one everyone does is, right? And you would say, more, it gets more complicated, like where you would sing, right? And you do that up and down the keyboard all the live long day, strengthen your voice, get stronger and stronger and stronger. There's a bunch of resources for that where you can, on Spotify, Apple Music, on YouTube, just Google, vocal scales, and you can find that information. So yeah, I'm not going to hang out on this unless you want to hear the highest note I can hit. No, I'm just kidding. Back to the other thing. So now that you've done some scales and you've kind of figured out where you live, where your natural kind of resting place is with your voice, you can kind of start to push. And this is where you want to work with your scales to push your range. We're born with a certain kind of range, and you can make it a lot bigger. Just like with doing yoga, you can become more flexible. Studying, you get smarter. With same thing with this. You can increase your range. So wherever you're singing now, if you every single day do your scales, every single day sing, work your range, work on the fundamentals and sing with proper technique and all that stuff, your range will increase. And that doesn't matter if you're the worst singer in the world or the best singer in the world. Now, obviously there's a limit you'll hit, but Then you're working on strengthening the notes that you've increased, right? Or singing with better technique, better pitch, all that stuff. Pitch is tricky for all of us. Even, trained singers, you get in different environments, you can't hear things, you don't know what's going on. And sometimes you have off days or you're dehydrated. That's another thing that I should have mentioned earlier. Water is crucial to a singer. You need to drink lots of water. When I drink alcohol, when I, exercise and don't hydrate after, I feel it the next day when I'm singing. And it is something I do every single day. I sing every day. Any serious singer who does not warm up and doesn't do their scales and doesn't do those things, you ain't no serious singer. Okay. This is your gift. You have to take care of it properly. You have to train it properly. So scales are super important and figuring out your range is super important. So, belting. Let's talk a little bit about belting. It's not for everyone. I mean, think about Joni Mitchell. Ooh, she was I could drink a case of... That's not a good Joni Mitchell impression, but you get the idea. Joni didn't belt, and she didn't have to. That wasn't her thing. Then you have Whitney, and that's what she was known for. So figuring out how you work in that realm is important. Are you more of a Joni Mitchell? Are you more of a Whitney Houston? Figuring out who you are naturally is super important too. Don't force one or the other, but I think it's important to know how to kind of do both. So belting, this is where all that abdominal stuff comes in. And let's see if we can hit a few notes together. So I went ahead and turned my volume down a little bit for this part because who knows if we're going to be screaming. So belting. It is what everybody wants to do when they take voice lessons. It's what everybody wants to do when they're a singer. It's all I want to do is belt. I want to hit those notes. I want to impress everybody and everybody see how great I am at singing. But you can hurt yourself, okay? So don't, again, warm up your voice before you attempt any of this stuff. But let's take Whitney Houston, I Will Always Love You, right? Here is how that song could be sung falsetto. That sounds terrible. No one would ever sing it that way unless they were trying to be funny. And I will always love you. And I guess maybe Joni Mitchell could do a pretty version of that. But here's what belting is. And I will always love you. So you can see physically the difference in those two things. Physically, what I had to do with my body to hit those notes. And frankly, I don't even know if I really hit them. I need some water myself, and I needed to warm up, and I didn't. I didn't take my own advice. But it may be inside of you. And if it is, you have to really, really, really practice on mic technique for those kind of things. So you're never going to sing I Will Always Love You by Whitney Houston or Dolly Parton. Really without a microphone, unless you're singing for your friends in the living room or in the shower, I guess. When you sing a song like that, you can see exactly what I just did. Pull off of the microphone. That is crucial. Singers who don't pull off of the microphone are no one's friend. They're loud and they hurt you and it's painful and you can't even enjoy the performance. So you're going to need to pull off of your microphone when you're hitting those notes. Another thing you're going to need to do is take a deep breath, tighten in at the abs. Like I told you before, support your diaphragm. Your breath is your best friend here. Your posture is your best friend here. And the number one thing you need to do is open your mouth. So many singers I see, and even some popular singers do this. They're here when they're hitting high notes. And you know what happens when you do that? It transfers here. And you don't have any space. Open your mouth. Do not ever be afraid of how you look when you sing. Be worried about how you sound, not how you look, how you sound. And as you can see, whatever I just did here, I probably looked ridiculous. I always look ridiculous when I sing, but I hit the notes and it sounds good and people like it. So I don't worry about that part. Worry about open your mouth big, support, Sometimes you got to squat down. It's like birthing a baby. You got to really push it out. A lot of air, a lot of push. Now, I have been warned my whole life by people, oh, if you sing like this, you're going to get vocal nodes. If you sing, da da da. I'm not going to say how old I am, but I'm just going to tell you I've been singing for a long time, professionally for a long time. I've been on reality TV shows. I sing in downtown Austin back when we could before the pandemic. I sing all over this country, and I've never had a problem with my voice. So you can sing this way, but the key is taking care of your vocal health, exercise, your diet, warming up, and working on the scales and working on your range. So now we're going to talk about falsetto, and falsetto is fun too. This is how you can be really gentle and delicate. And I'll reference back to my performance. If you watched it, I specifically chose that song. I've never released that song. It's just a song I wrote for fun and produced here in this room here. Just because it shows kind of a range of different things you can do with your voice. You know, being pretty delicate on some of the high stuff, but then also having moments where you belt the high notes. So falsetto, that's where you're going to pull from. Instead of here, you're going to pull up to here now. So, when I get emotional, that's singing in the mix, what I just did, which is going from falsetto down to a chest voice. When I get, that's falsetto. Now I'm pulling down. When I get emotional with you. And singing in the mix is what also allows you to be able to do runs, because runs, they don't stay in one place, right? They start here, they go all over the place. I happen to do runs myself. Some people can't do them, but everyone has a different style of doing runs that is natural to them if they can do them. I'm not Christina Aguilera. I definitely don't do runs like that, but I do all right, I think. So singing the mix is really important for that, because if you notice, going from that falsetto, when I get emotional with you, just being able to move around in between the falsetto and the chest and a more comfortable range for you is important when you're doing runs. What are runs? That's another thing everybody wants to do. And they aren't for everyone. You may not be a singer that sings runs. Joni Mitchell was not doing runs, although she kind of did like California or whatever she did, her like white lady runs, which were super cute. I love Joni Mitchell. So those may be the kind of runs you do. Everyone doesn't need to be doing them. They're not for everybody, and they're not for every style of music. I'm a big fan of Christina Aguilera, but I know a lot of people, would critique her for maybe doing runs when she shouldn't. And that's another thing to think about when you're singing, is being conservative in those sort of things. Because if it's just constant the whole time, it's not impressive anymore. You've already showed all your cards. But also, sometimes you just want to hear the song, the actual song. Somebody wrote that song and spent a lot of time on that song and specific notes and a specific melody. And sometimes you need to let that melody live and breathe. But if you want to do runs, I can't really tell you how to do them, other than what you need to do is you need to learn how to sing, and you need to learn how to sing on pitch. And once you do that, and once you start figuring out how the key of a song feels with your voice, which is a lot different than an instrument. If I tell you a song is in C, you're going to play all the white keys on a keyboard, and you play it. You can see it with your fingers, what you can play and what you can't. The difference with voice is if a song is in the key of C, you have to find it in here. It's almost like, I don't know if you guys know what a theremin is, which is an instrument you play in the air. It's almost like that. You have to find it in here, those notes. And that's kind of what happens with runs, is you find your key and you move around a little bit and take liberties within there. And I think, maybe I did that a couple times on the performance. You can watch that and see. But I think a good trick for you to do is to record yourself singing, and then to watch it back and see if there's a natural thing that you're already doing, and then build upon that. You have to record your vocals. You have to record yourself performing so that you can see what you're doing, because what you hear in here is not going to be what you hear through the speaker. And you may be actually astounded at what it sounds like. I know a lot of people who I've recorded, friends recorded for fun, and then they've heard themselves back and they were just like disgusted or shocked or whatever. So listen back to yourself, record yourself singing, listen back. And first of all, see what needs improvement. You're going to see a lot of things that need improvement. But second of all, see if there's something you're doing naturally with your runs. I know there's certain like, little things that I do with my voice naturally. And I try to lean into those things in lieu of trying to be someone that I'm not, like a Christina Aguilera. I'm trying to be Primo the Alien, and you need to be you. And that's going to bring us to our next part of singing, which is the most important part to me of singing. I don't know if you can tell, but I'm excited about this part because this is what makes a singer. It's finding your voice, finding your own unique perspective, and singing with originality, singing in a way that is like no one else, singing in a way that when someone hears it, they know it's you. There's so many singers throughout history. Aretha Franklin. Aretha, you don't need to have ever heard the song before. You know it's Aretha. She has a distinct, unique voice, and that's what you need to find about you. Don't try to be someone else. You can't be. You can only be you, especially with singing. There's a lot of ways to imitate people on some instruments, although, the really great guitarists had their own voice also, which is hard to imitate. But it's especially hard to imitate with a physical part of your body that has a certain tone, timbre, quality, all that kind of stuff. So finding your own unique voice and then using it and performing in a way that is special. My name is Primo the Alien. I do kind of sort of performance type art. I found my voice. It took me a really, really long time though. Not until probably the last few years did I find my real voice. And I don't just mean the sound of my voice, but what I had to say as a singer and the message I wanted to convey and how I wanted to convey it. Now, as I exemplified earlier with Row, Row, Row Your Boat, Row Your Boat, however you say that song, the way you perform a song changes the song entirely. And you know that from cover songs, even hearing, different singers' interpretation of the same song. So if you want to be a good singer, you also kind of have to be a good actor as well. You have to live in the song, live in the notes, and live in the message of whatever the song is trying to convey. And you have to convey it also with your body. Now I've realized that the reason that I've been sitting like this is because this microphone is down here. It's good that I figured that out at the end of the video. So performing. Row, row, row your boat. Actually, I won't sing it so bad. Row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. Merrily, 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 life is but a dream. Row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. Merrily, 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 life is but a dream. That was no extra runs or anything like that. It didn't do anything impressive, but it's a night and day between those two things, just based on feeling a little something, showing a facial expression. And this is in a seated position. Think about what you can do on a stage when you can really move, you can really get going. So use the mirror, guys. I know it sounds dumb, but find something to... Well, I've got stuff all over I have stuff all over the place that look like microphones. This is one of them. But get something, a hairbrush, get in front of the mirror and perform these songs. Okay? Look at how it's going to look to other people. Look at your facial expressions. Record yourself. Play it back. Work on that. I know a lot of vocal teachers focus on, okay, now we're going to sing this scale. Da 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 da, and you can do it all day long. You can do that at home by yourself. What you need to hear from me is that you got to bring the to it when you sing. Okay. There's so much more than just the technical aspect of singing to be a real singer. Okay. You got to have pizzazz. You got to have the it factor. You have to have just that intangible quality that makes what you're doing different than what someone else is doing. The next step to that would then be learning an instrument, writing music, and there's no other feeling in the world than singing a song that you wrote yourself, performing a song that you wrote yourself, because It's the ultimate expression. Singing is a wonderful expression, even if you didn't write the song. But man, if you wrote it, now you can also write the notes for you, the notes that work for you, in the range that works for you, in a way that works for you. So I would advise anyone who wants to be a singer to pick up an instrument and see what you come up with. So I don't know, 30 minutes, it's short and it's long. I don't know. There's a lot of information about singing. You could never pack it into 30 minutes. And I didn't want to sit here with the scale and be like, okay, here, run scales. You can do that you can get on Spotify and find scales like that. In fact, you should use those scales on Spotify. Just type in vocal warm-ups and start your day with vocal scales you find on, your favorite music app or whatever. But I'm just here to tell you as a real singer, okay? And I'm not just your little measly singer, okay? I sing. And I'm here to tell you, if you're going to do it, you got to do it. Take it all the way. And just like I was saying, your physical body, your mental place, your performance, your bravado, your authenticity, your originality, all of those things are what makes a great singer. And you'll be well on your way if you listen to me, because I am an expert. If you want more information about me, you can visit my website at primothealien.com. I hope you learned a little something. I don't know if I'm a great teacher, maybe more of a do as I say, not as I do type person. I don't know. But yeah, primothealien.com, and you can hear my music there, my singing. Thanks.